For most of human history, people woke up in the middle of the night on purpose, not because a baby cried or a dog barked or the fire went out. On purpose. They slept about 4 hours, got up in the dark, stayed up for an hour or two, and then went back to bed for what they called their second sleep. We know this because they wrote it down without ever bothering to explain it, the way you would write down that you had breakfast. Court testimony, diaries, medical books, prayers composed specifically for the hour between the sleeps. In English, the two halves had names: first sleep, second sleep. Nobody ever defined them because everybody already knew. Which means the unbroken 8 hours you are failing at every night is not the human default. It is a recent arrangement, roughly as old as the light bulb. But that is not the strange part. The strange part is what they did with that hour. And to understand it, you need one more fact about the people who lived it, a fact so basic it is almost impossible to hold in your head. They did not know what their own face looked like. Not literally never. Mirrors are ancient. There are polished obsidian mirrors from Catalhoyuk in what is now Turkey that are 8,000 years old. Egypt had bronze ones. But hold one and you understand the problem immediately. It is the size of your palm. It is dim. It bends. You get a smear of a person, badly lit, one feature at a time. The clear glass mirror, large enough to show a whole face, was a Venetian secret, guarded on an island, and it cost more than a painting by a good artist. The cheap silvered mirror hanging in your bathroom, the one you have looked into so many times that you have stopped seeing it, comes from a chemical process invented in 1835. Not even 200 years ago. So for almost the entire run of the human species, your face was not something you looked at. It was something you were told about. Sit with what that does to a person. You know your hands. You have watched them work your whole life. But the part of you that everyone else uses to recognize you, judge you, love you, or avoid you, that part is a rumor. It lives in other people. They hold it. You do not. And once you see that, a whole category of behavior that looks insane from the outside snaps into focus. Because if other people hold your face, then other people hold everything else about you as well. Your name, your worth, your standing. And a reputation you cannot see is a reputation you can lose without noticing. In 16th century Augsburg, a shoemaker could lose everything for drinking one beer with the wrong man: his trade, his guild, his standing, his children's prospects. Permanently, publicly, and with no way back. And the wrong man was not a criminal or an enemy of the city. It was the town executioner. Now, the executioner was not hated. That is the part people get wrong. He was employed. He was paid out of the city purse. He was, in a strange way, essential. And his job was not really the executions, which were rare, a handful in a busy year and sometimes none at all. His actual job was everything else. He cleaned the public latrines. He carted the waste out of the streets. He dealt with the stray dogs and the dead horses and anything else that had stopped being an animal and become a problem. In Augsburg's civic code, tucked in among the rules on grain and milk, he was also the man who collected a small weekly fee from the city's prostitutes, 2 Pfennig. He was forbidden to ask for more. The same hands that carried the sword checked the grain. Nobody at the time thought that was a contradiction. It was the job, the sum of every task too dirty for an honorable person to touch. Which is exactly where it stops making sense. Because those same hands healed people. Franz Schmidt was the executioner of Nuremberg from 1573 to 1617, and he kept a journal for 40 years. It is one of the strangest documents to survive from that world. He records the executions in flat, careful sentences, like a man doing his accounts. He also records the patience, because when a man broke his arm, when a shoulder came out of its socket, when a wound would not close and the university-trained physician had run out of theory, people went to the executioner. He knew where every bone in the body sat and what happened when it was moved, and he had learned it the only way anything was learned then, which was by doing. Citizens who would not have sat at a table with him let him take their bare arm in his bare hands and set it. So put the two scenes side by side. A man closes his hands around your broken arm. That is fine. That is sought after. That is paid for. That same man slides a cup of beer across a tavern table and you sit down beside him, and you are finished. Same hands, same man, same city, possibly the same week. It was never about the killing, everyone knew that. They just could not have told you what it was about. And it did not end with him. The stain was inheritable. An executioner's son could not be apprenticed to an honest trade. His daughter could not marry into one. So the families married each other, and executioner dynasties spread across the German lands, generation after generation, locked in place by something nobody could point at. Franz Schmidt spent his whole working life on one project, and it was not the sword. When he finally retired, he petitioned the emperor to restore his family's honor. He won. His son became a physician, which is what his father had been in everything except permission. So what was the stain? Here is the answer, and it is the reason any of this reaches you. It was contact, not the act, the closeness. Setting a bone is contact with a purpose. It has a beginning and an end. You arrive, he works, you leave, and everyone watching understands precisely what they saw. Sharing a drink has no purpose. That is the entire point of sharing a drink. It says, I am like you. I would sit here with you for no reason at all. And in a world where nobody could see their own face, where your identity was held for you by everyone who could see it, sitting down beside a man for no reason was not a social choice. It was a statement about what you were. And once the town had seen it, you could not take it back, because you were never the one holding it. Which brings us back to 3 in the morning. Because now you can see what that hour actually was. The records of the waking hour are not records of people lying awake worrying. They got up, they tended the fire, they checked the animals, they talked quietly in the dark. Couples conceived children, and physicians recommended the interval for it, on the grounds that people were rested and it simply went better. They prayed, and they told each other their dreams, right then, while the dream was still warm, which is why that world produced so much dream interpretation and ours produces almost none. We wake at 7 to an alarm, and it is already gone. And there is one more thing about that hour, and it is the only one that matters. It was the only hour of the day when nobody was watching. Every other hour you were held by other people. Your face, your name, your worth, all of it stored outside your own body, in the eyes of a village that never stopped assessing. Then the candles went out, and for 1 hour, in the dark, nobody was looking at you at all. You have a mirror now. Several. A camera in your pocket that will show you your own face on demand from any angle at any hour. And you have looked at it so many times that it has stopped telling you anything. But the thing your ancestors could not see was never really the face. It was the other one. The version of you that lives in other people, the one they hold and you do not, that gets quietly revised by who you sit down beside, and what you are seen doing, and who decides you are worth their time. You cannot see that one either. Nobody has ever built a mirror for it. They knew that about themselves. That is the whole difference. They knew their name was kept in other people's hands, and they were careful about it in ways that look, from here, completely mad. And then, once a night, the light went out. And for an hour, nobody was holding anything. So the next time it happens to you, 3 in the morning, wide awake, the house silent, that old restlessness with no name, nothing is wrong with you. You are just early, by about 200 years. And for the next hour, nobody is looking.